What up, Blackish fam? I hope all is well and everyone's doing well in the world today. I had to take a day or so off because I actually got sick, and I just found out less than an hour ago that I, in fact, have COVID. Hasn't been too bad. I got some flashes. I'm getting a little sweat under the beard, hot and cold, runny nose, and whatnot. But overall, I do have my vaccination and I do have my booster shot, so I'm doing pretty well. And that was actually the reason I wanted to put together this video because, I'd like to consider myself, an educated young man, and I'd like to do my own research as well as look at research from other companies. But I've been reading a lot about the vaccine and these booster shots, and it seems like the news has this, black people aren't getting vaccinated because they don't trust the amount of time that was put into the vaccine, or they don't XYZ. And I think we need to also look at the root of the problem. It's not really that black people have this irrational fear of new medical technology. It's really that there's an awareness of a long history of being disrespected, mistreated, and violated by the government and by healthcare professionals. Now, if we start out with the assumption that black people have to be convinced to trust the vaccine because there's a problem with black people's attitude towards medicine and science, I really do think that's the wrong approach, right? We have to have an approach that the approach should be on how medicine and science can be made more deserving of black people's trust. When we hear people say, I have skepticism, I have questions, we have to respect that. We have to honor that, and keep in mind, and for people that aren't, if you're not a person of color, I know this can be hard to understand, but this is really grounded in reality. Many folks don't have to look too far back where they can experience or tell you about an experience where either themselves or their family members have had these interactions with the healthcare system that they were just treated in a discriminate way, or they were, and a lot of people say, well, no, this is Johnson and Johnson. This is Pfizer. These are companies that you can trust. This is the U.S. government. Have you guys ever heard of Henrietta Lacks? Henrietta Lacks was a woman that had cancer, and basically they took her cancer cells and used them in cancer research for decades. And it's been great, right? It's been great for the medical community. But just the fact that they could take someone's cancer cells without their consent or approval and put them out into the world and do testing on them is something that doesn't make people feel comfortable, right? Look at the Tuskegee syphilis study, right? This was a study that was, this was between 1932 and 1972. And it wasn't just some basement-run study. This is the United States Public Health Service and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, known as the CDC. Now, they had a group of 400 African Americans, right, black dudes, with syphilis, and the purpose of the study was to observe the effects of the disease when untreated. But these guys weren't informed of the nature of the experiment, and more than 100 guys died as a result. There were other guys that were blind or had needed other sorts of mental care. I mean, and this is the United States government as well as the CDC. I mean, and we can go, I can go way back. I actually enjoy this research. But we can look back to people testing drugs on black people going back decades, right? Especially in Africa. And let alone there's a lot of urban legends where we don't know where supposedly the government has come in to do vaccinations, and all of a sudden you got an area with one of the rampant HIV and AIDS. And we have to question what was in the vaccine, right? And this isn't just, they're not all just urban legends, just these myths of people, these stories from crazy older folks. These are documented cases. One in particular, there's a meningitis testing in Nigeria this wasn't even too long ago. This was in the 1990s. And these aren't, again, this isn't some small-time mom-and-pop shop. This was actually Pfizer, the same people that are putting together the vaccine for you today. They were experimenting on a drug called Trovan, and they were doing clinical trials in Nigeria. And basically, the trial compared the new antibiotic Trovan against the best treatment available at the time, which was ceftriaxone, right? But basically, 11 children died in that trial. 5 died after taking Trovan, and 6 died after taking an older antibiotic. Others suffered blindness, deafness, brain damage. And again, keep in mind that this was Pfizer that was in fact running these experiments. And the drug was actually approved for general use in the U.S. Think about that. And we go back to Zimbabwe, again in the 1990s, where they were doing HIV and AIDS testing. When they were doing, a placebo or whatnot, basically the end result was over 1,000 babies contracted HIV/AIDS during that experiment. And the list goes on and on, from testing contraception in what's now Zimbabwe in the 70s. There were sterilization experiments in West Africa in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. So keep in mind, when someone says that they're hesitant, it's not because of the amount of time that was put into researching the vaccine. It's because there's an entire history of this, and especially from the educated or intellectual community. They know about these things, right? A lot of this is common knowledge, or you can find this by simply searching for it. So I just think we need to take a different approach on vaccinating and getting the community boosted. I've been vaccinated, and I've gotten my booster shot, but it's so important that we realize that people do have a right, and it's important that we acknowledge that. Yes, the government can mandate getting a vaccine, right? We've seen that in, 1905, right? There was basically a landmark case in which the court considered the delicate balancing act between individual liberty over our bodies and our duty to one another. Yes, we can force people to get a vaccine, but I don't think we should. I think it's so important that we understand that I might not agree with someone who doesn't want the vaccine, but I will fight for their right to not get it, right? It's like, you don't have to, for example, the First Amendment, right? You might not agree with someone is saying, but if somebody took away that ability, you could be next, right? You might not agree with the KKK or Black Lives Matters protests, but if they couldn't do that, could you, right? If you were in the minority? So I just wanted to put that out there, and I think there's been a whole lot of effort that has gone into portraying the vaccine as being safe, right? Different Black people like, look at me, I'm getting the shot, right? And I think the same amount of thought, effort, and concern that's been, it's been put into figuring out how to get the vaccine to Black people and Black communities as well. There's definitely a disconnect, and I'm not surprised, right? Black people don't have equal access to things like quality education, good health care, safe communities. And the vaccine is no different. It's like everything else in our society. There's never equal access for Black people. So just wanted to highlight that, get some information out there to the world. If you're a fan, not just of good music and musical breakdowns, lyrical breakdowns, intelligent lyrical breakdowns, spoken word, poetry, we do a little bit of everything here. We broke down Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, but we've also looked into Malcolm X, Black nationalism and such. But if you're a fan, don't forget to like the video, but also subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of good work. We're trying to put good information into the community, and I hope you're there to support.